Hello and welcome to another episode of Contador Publico at your service. So this is the first basic accounting lesson na i-discuss natin here in my vlog, Contador Publico at your service. This is designed para doon sa mga new accounting students or pwede rin sa mga senior high school who has basic accounting subjects. Hope that this video will help you understand what is the basics of accounting. So this will be a video series and we'll start with the basic concepts of accounting. Ano nga ba ang accounting? Accounting is defined as the art of recording, classifying, and summarizing in a significant manner and in terms of money, transactions, and events which are in part at least of a financial character and interpreting the results thereof. So, ang accounting pala, sabi sa definition na ito, ay isang art kung saan i-record mo, ika-classify, at isa-summarize sa isang significant manner or ibig sabihin, may standard rules or policies or accounting procedures. Okay? Kaya sinasabi in a significant manner. Kasi meron kang sinusunod na standards. Ano yung i-record, ika-classify at isa-summarize mo? Okay? Yung financial transactions and events ng isang business. Okay? In terms of money, so ibig sabihin, lahat ng accounting transactions na may value. Tapos, after mo siyang ma-record, ma-classify at ma-summarize, i-interpret mo na ngayon yung results ng business operations. So, dyan mo malalaman, tumutubo ka ba? Nalulugi ka ba? Ano yung sales mo, ano yung dapat mong i-improve para sa kumpanya. So, ang accounting ay mahalaga sa isang business dahil sa information na pinoprovide ng accountants, nabubuo ang plans ng management affecting the business. Yung recording na sinasabi, yan yung re-record ang transactions sa general journals. Classifying naman from general journals, itatransfer mo na ngayon siya into your general ledgers. And then, summarizing. So, from your general ledgers, isa-summarize mo na siya into your trial balance, statement of financial position, your statement of comprehensive income, your statement of cash flows, at statement of changes in equity, pati na rin yung notes to your financial statements. Ang end goal ng accounting is to produce the financial statements of a company wherein ang mga users ng financial statements na ito ay gagawa ng informed financial decisions affecting the business based on the results of the business financial performance. Ang accounting din daw is the process of identifying, measuring, and communicating economic information to permit informed judgment and decision by the users of the information. So, ibig sabihin, aside from being an art, it's also a process. May cycle po tayo na tinatawag, which is accounting cycle. Na yan yung through this cycle, you will produce your financial information. Nandiyan na yung identifying, i-identify mo yung accounting events, i-measure, communicating economic information, ibig sabihin, i-communicate or ipapaalam mo sa users nung information itong results ng company, yung financial results ng company. At mula dun sa information na yon na ipoproduce mo, which is financial statements na tinatawag. Mula dun sa financial statements, ang users ng financial statements ay gagawa ng informed judgments and decisions. So, sino ba ang mga users? Ang users niyan, for example, is the management. the management will decide to continue or magsasara na ba siya yung business. Another example of the users is the banks. So, for example, si management, nakita niya na, okay, mula sa balance sheet niya, kulang ang cash ko. Kailangan kong mag-loan. So, ipapasa niya yung financial statements niya to a bank. And then the bank will now be a user of the information. The bank will assess, okay, papautangin ko ba itong business na to? May kakayahan ba siyang magbayad? Saan niya kukunin ang information na yon? It's from the accounting information or the financial statements na produce through this process of accounting. Accounting is also a service activity. Its function is to provide quantitative information, primarily financial in nature, about economic entities that is intended to be useful in making decisions. So aside from being an art, a process, ito nga din ay isang service activity. So function, nagpo-provide ka ng accounting service na ang function mo ay magbigay ng quantitative information. So mahalaga yan, quantitative. Kaya nga sabi, diba, in terms of money. Okay, primarily financial in nature, about economic entities like businesses, government institutions, banks, vendors, lenders, so yung mga yan. Pwedeng sari-sari store, basta meron siyang economic value, okay, that is intended to be useful in making economic decisions. Hindi ka mag-a-account ng transactions nang walang use. Ang talagang end goal mo is yung financial statements na ipoproduce mo as being an accountant would parang i-influence mo yung users to make economic decisions. Not just simple decisions, but economic decisions affecting their entities. So, ang mga users mo kasi, you have your management or the company management, you have your employees, the government, banks, lenders, your customers, your employees. So, yun yung mga users ng accounting information. Generally accepted accounting principles. These are the principles that are being followed in recording, classifying, and summarizing your accounting events. So, ito yung mga policies and rules that we follow para ma-create yung financial statements. So, GAAP or Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, in the Philippines, our GAAP is called the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards or PFRS. Okay, some of the principles that we follow includes objectivity principle, historical cost, revenue recognition principles, and matching principles. So our first principle is objectivity principle, wherein the records and statements are based on most reliable data available. In the accounting, we have to be objective, meaning kailangan all our data will be based on facts or the most reliable data. Hindi tayo gagawa ng kwento, lahat kailangan supported. Even our accounting estimates should be supported by the most reliable data na available dun sa company. Your transaction should be recorded based on supporting documents, official receipts, yung mga ganyan, sales invoice, hindi yung basta ka lang mag-record based on verbal things. It has to be, or your records should have evidences. Yung evidences ng tinatawag natin, yun yung mga delivery notes, sales invoices, sales receipts. So, lahat kailangan may proof and documented nga. Hindi pwedeng haka-haka. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng objectivity principle. In accounting, we also have the so-called historical concept wherein we record the accounting events using their actual or their historical cost. So, merong mga certain accounts that we use this historical concept. If it would make it more relevant na gamitin ang actual or historical cost, we apply historical concept. For example, kapag bumili ka ng isang equipment, i-record mo siya in the amount kung magkano mo siya nabili. So, yun yung example niya. Also, for example, the owner invested 100,000 sa company. So, you record how much he invested at that time. Okay, so another principle that we have, the third one, is the revenue recognition principle. According to this principle, revenue is recognized in the accounting period when goods are delivered or services are performed. So, kung kailan ka nagbenta, kung kailan nangyari yung service, dun mo i-recognize yung revenue. Regardless kung kailan mo na-receive yung bayad. So, for example, sales. You sold, for example, 100,000 units of laptops. Dineliver mo siya in 2020. Okay? And you received payment half in 2020, half in 2021. Okay? So, anong i-consider mong sale? According sa revenue recognition principle, when goods are delivered. So, since dineliver mo na siya in 2020, you will record the full revenue in the year 2020. Regardless, kahit 2021 mo pa, ma-receive yung another half of the payment. Okay? Another example, if you received in December 2019 an advance for your services na 100,000. Pero, nag-start yung service mo. For example, nagpo-provide ka ng accounting service. Nag-start yung accounting service mo January 2020 tapos matatapos siya December 2020. Na-receive mo yung bayad December 2019. Okay? Sa revenue recognition principle, sa 2019, hindi ka pa pwedeng mag-recognize ng revenue. Kasi, pinerform mo yung services 2020 na. So, your revenue recognition will start January 2020, regardless kung advance mo na-receive yung bayad. Our next principle is the matching principle. Under this principle, expenses should be recognized in the accounting periods in which goods or services are used to produce revenue, and not when an entity pays for those goods and services. Okay, so ibig sabihin, under the matching principle, yung pag-account natin ng expenses or pag-record natin ng expenses, kailangan matching siya kung kailan natin na-receive or ni-record yung revenue for those expenses. This is directly talking about your cost of sales or your cost of service. Okay? So, for example, ikaw ay merong accounting firm. So, meron kang, ang cost of service mo is yung sweldo ng mga accounting staff mo. Nagpe-perform ka, for example, ng services for the year 2020. So, under ng matching principle, yung expenses mo sa sweldo ng accounting staff who are doing the service for your clients, ima-match mo siya dun sa revenue. Or, i-record mo yung expenses nila, ng sahod nila, during the year na pinerform nyo yung services for the client. So, yung salary nila, i-expense mo siya ng 2020 din. Okay, so another example, kunwari nasa trading business ka, so nagbebenta ka ng goods. Binili mo yung product nung December 2019. Okay? Pero nabenta mo siya, for example, is 2020 January na. Under the matching principle, i-recognize mo yung expense dun sa item na nabili mo or dun sa binenta mo na product on 2020. Kasi 2020 mo na-receive yung revenue or 2020 na earn mo na-earn yung revenue na yon. So, paano po yun? Binili ko na siya or binayaran ko na siya noong 2019. So, ibig sabihin, noong 2019, asset mo siya. Hindi mo pa kasi siya nabebenta. Hindi pa siya papasok sa statement of comprehensive income mo. Wala pa siya, hindi pa siya revenue. Inventory pa siya. Okay? Kaya, yun yung tinatawag nating matching principle. Kaya ka merong inventory at merong kang cost of goods sold. Kasi, by 2020, magiging part na yung item na yon ng cost of goods sold mo. So, kung halimbawa, 100 units, binili mo ng 2019. Ang nabenta mo ng 2019, 80. So, sa income statement mo, ang nasa cost of goods sold mo lang, yung cost or ang expense mo doon, yung cost lang nung 80 units. Kasi yun lang yung revenue na na-earn mo during 2019. Yung 20, kung mabenta mo siya ng 2020, so yung cost ng 20 units na yon mapupunta sa income statement mo or statement of your comprehensive income on the year 2020. Yun po yung pinapaliwanag ng matching principle. Para ang reason behind this is para ma-match properly yung revenue and expenses. Kasi kung magre-recognize ka na ng expense for 100 units, for example, 80 lang naman yung nabenta mo, may mismatch, 'di ba? Malaki yung cost mo. Kaya sa accounting ginagamit natin itong matching principle. Next, we will proceed with the discussion of the elements of accounting. So, there are two categories or elements of accounting. Una, those that are related to the measurement of financial position. Yan na yung tinatawag nating asset, liability, and equity kung naririnig nyo sila. Statement of financial position or yung balance sheet. So, dito mo makikita yung strength, ano na ba yung assets ng company, gaano ba siya ka-liquid or solvent ba siya, meaning kaya ba niyang bayadan yung currently maturing na mga utang niya or liabilities niya, magkano ba yung capital ng business, mas malaki ba yung utang niya kaysa sa capital niya, malaki ba yung cash niya? Malaki ba yung accounts receivable niya? So, malaki ba yung prepayments niya? Or meron ba siyang mga building? Meron ba siyang equipment? Magkano yung mga yon? Yun yung tinatawag nating assets, liabilities, and equity. Okay, so the second set of the elements of accounting are those that are related to the financial performance of an entity in a given period of time. These are your revenues and expenses. So in short, ito yung kita nyo or yung income nyo and your expenses or yung gastos nyo sa business. In these elements of accounting, we have derived our accounting equation or the golden rule of accounting. Ito na yung assets equals liabilities and equities. This will be further explained pag nag-double entry system na tayo. Ibig sabihin lang nito, sa isang business, yung kanyang assets, lagi niyang katumbas ang pinagsamang liabilities or the debts or yung utang ng company plus the equities or yung capital ng business. This equation is very important sa accounting kasi kahit saan ka makarating na advanced accounting, intermediate accounting, lagi mo pa rin babalik-balikan ang equation na to at lagi mo siyang tatandaan at isa sa puso. Dahil pag malilito ka na, always go back to the basic concepts which is assets equals liabilities plus equities. As I have mentioned earlier, so these three elements, assets, liabilities, and capital or equities, compose your balance sheet account. So ito yung categories ng inyong balance sheet or statement of financial position. So I will discuss each briefly and then later we will have a more in-depth discussion. So in assets, anything of value owned or leased by a business. So ito yung mga tangible or intangible, ibig sabihin nahahawakan or di nahahawakan ng mga bagay, na there is a benefit or magbibigay ng future economic benefit sa isang kumpanya. For example, cash. These are normally, at the end of the day, can be converted into cash of the company. For example, or you can use to generate income for the company. So, for example, you have your cash, accounts receivable, those kinds of things. Liability naman, claim against a firm's asset by a creditor. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung mga utang, yung mga babayaran ng kumpanya, okay, either sa vendor, or sa bank, or sa third party, or sa tao. So, anything na utang, these are your liabilities. And then, the third is your capital or your equity. Okay? Yung capital or your equity, ito naman yung claims of the proprietor, the partners, stockholders, against the assets of a firm equal to the excess of the assets over liabilities. Okay, so isa-isahin natin. Ito yung mga capital. In short, ito yung pera or pag-aari na ininvest ng business owner o kaya naman ng partners o kaya naman stockholders dun sa company. At based on our accounting equation, ito na nga, it is equal to the asset minus liabilities. Okay? So pag pinagsama mo yung mga assets na nakuha ng company sa pangungutang or through liability, at yung mga assets na nakuha ng company sa pamamagitan ng capital na ininvest ng owners, okay, yun, pag pinagsama mo yun yung total assets. Ito yung total na pag-aari ng business. So, our second set of the elements of accounting is ito na nga yung tinatawag nating income statement accounts composed of our revenue and expenses. So, yung revenue, yan na nga yung earnings or yung kita from the usual business activities. In most cases, revenues are earned from sales of goods and services. So, ang normal na revenue or most of the companies is nagbebenta ng goods or nagpo-provide ng services. And then your second one is the expenses. Ito na nga yung the money that the company spends to produce these goods or services. So, yan na yung cost of doing business na tinatawag. So, yung inyong mga cost of goods sold, your expenses, lahat ng gastos ng company. Okay, so what is an account? Kanina pa nating sinasabi yung account, diba? Or accounting. Ito yung basic summary device of accounting. It is a record in an accounting system that tracks the financial activities of a specific asset, liability, equity, revenue, or expenses. Sa madaling sabi, ang isang category or isang element ay binubuo ng multiple accounts. Kung halimbawa sa isang family, yung family, yun yung category, yung asset. Yung family, di ba, may individual members. So, parang ganun lang din. Yung account, yung nagre-represent ng isang member nung asset. So, ang asset, binubuo ng maraming accounts. Ang liability, marami din siyang accounts sa loob niya. Equity naman, revenue and expense, the same. So, marami silang accounts na bumubuo sa categories na ito. And these categories, may subcategories pa yan bago magkaroon ng account. Okay, so we will discuss the typical accounts in the next slides. In this slide, so makikita nyo yung mga normal accounts that is composing your assets. Meron tayong dalawang categories ng assets. We have current and the second is the non-current assets. Yung current assets na tinatawag, these are the assets or ito yung mga pag-aari ng companies that can be converted into cash within 12 months or within the normal operating cycle ng business. So, ibig sabihin, for example, yung mga accounts receivable, ito yung mga makokolekta mo within 12 months or notes receivable na ang life niya is short term lang. Okay, so kung less than 1 year, yung notes promissory note, ganon. Yung notes receivable, halimbawa, nag-issue ng promissory note sa'yo, yung binautang mo, or yung customer mo, ganyan. Inventory naman, so kaya sinasabing 12 months or the normal operating cycle ng business. So, yung inventory kasi normally hindi ka mag-stock niya ng more than 12 months bago mo mabenta, 'di ba? So, fast moving, normally dapat fast moving your inventory. Or, o kaya naman, kung yung inventory mo, for example, ang business mo ay what do you call this, yung mga poultry or ganyan. So, for example, yung baka, kung gaano katagal yung normal operating cycle bago mo ka makabenta or something. Ganun siya. Mga biological assets. Yun lang yung alam ko na nag-exceed ng 12 months. For example, yung wood na pinoproduce nung tree. Ganyan. Yung mga ganon. Yun yung normally nag-exceed ng normal operating, ng 12 months as their operating cycle. So, pero ang normally talaga, 12 months. So, pag lesser than 12 months, ma-convert mo na siya into cash. So, current asset yon. Prepaid expenses naman na tinatawag, ito yung mga nagbayad ka in advance. For example, bumili ka ng insurance na pang 1 taon. So, you paid in advance. O kaya naman rent. So, nagbayad ka na ng rent for 1 year. So, pero hindi mo pa siya, hindi pa nag-lapse yung period. So, ang tawag doon prepaid expenses. Basta binayaran mo na siya in advance. Okay? Yung namang non-current assets, ito yung mga accounts na ini-expect mo more than 12 months before mo siya ma-convert into cash. Either through way of pagbibili or tumubo, ganyan. So, ito yung long-term na magiging pag-aari mo siya. Okay, hindi naman necessarily magpo-produce siya ng cash, 'di ba? Yung equipment, yung building, yung land, not necessarily mag-produce ng cash, but these are the assets. Ibig sabihin, mga ginagamit mo siya para produce ka ng item or makapagbenta ka or how you do your business, kung ano man yung business mo. Okay, so halimbawa yung land na kinatitiri ka ng company building, okay? So, hindi mo naman agad ipagbibili siya within 12 months. So, those are the things na tinatawag nating non-current assets. Equipment. Di ka naman bibili ng equipment. Just, assume mo na 1 taon mo lang yan gagamitin. Normally, when you buy an equipment, when you invest in an equipment, assume mo na matagal mo siyang gagamitin. Normally, yung life ng equipment, mga 5 years, 4 years, ganyan. Okay? Intangibles, ito yung mga brand name, patent, copyright, yan. Although, these are intangible or hindi mo nakikita, hindi mo nahahawakan, but this can produce cash or this can produce cash flow for you. Example nito yung mga brand, like Coca-Cola, may patent. Yung mga brand name nila, nag-a-apply sila dyan ng brand name, ganyan. Yung Coca-Cola itself, for example, may what do you call this? May economic benefit yon minsan, yung having a brand name. Okay? Yung mga Louis Vuitton, okay? They have a brand. Copyright naman, for example, yung mga music. Ang musical company ka, o kaya Star Cinema, yung copyright mo dun sa movies mo. So, those are the things na tinatawag nating intangibles. So, yung mga music, may royalties ka kasing marireceive dyan. Yung brand, pwede ka ding magkaroon ng franchise because of your brand. So, yun. Yun yung current and non-current assets. Okay, next is liabilities. So, for liabilities, we also have current and non-current categories. Yung current, just like assets, ito naman, you are expecting to settle or it's already due within the next 12 months after your balance sheet date. So, after yung date ng balance sheet, due na or kailangan mo nang bayaran itong mga payable na ito. So, accounts payable, yan yung mga normal utang mo to your vendors. Like, if you purchased supplies or you purchased goods on account. Pag sinabing ganon, ibig sabihin accounts payable yon. Merong credit terms na in-extend sa'yo. Notes payable naman, ito yung nag-issue ka ng promissory note sa isang lender. Okay? Pwedeng may interest, pwede ding walang interest. So interest-bearing or non-interest-bearing note. Accrued liabilities naman, these are expenses na na-incur mo na pero hindi mo pa binabayadan. So, for example, accrued rent. So, may inuupahan ka, meron kayong contract, hindi mo pa nababayaran, but according nga sa matching principle natin, di ba? You have to record your expenses on the period that the revenue was performed. So, kung kailan mo na-incur yung bill, kung kailan mo siya ginastos, doon mo siya i-record. Also, for example, salaries. So, kung yung salaries, binayaran mo siya the next month, so kung December yung balance sheet date mo, tapos binayaran mo yung salaries mo January 5, so come December 31, yung balance sheet date mo, meron kang tinatawag na accrued salaries expense. Okay? So, yun yung mga accruals. Na-expense mo na or na-incur mo na yung bill or yung expense pero hindi mo pa siya binabayaran. Ang unearned revenue naman, this is kabaliktaran naman siya ng accruals. Okay? Unearned revenue na tinatawag is nagbayad sa'yo ng advance yung customers mo. So, unearned meaning hindi mo pa na-earn. Hindi mo pa na-earn yung pera na yon. Although, na tanggap mo na yung bayad. So, utang mo siya sa customer hanggat hindi mo na-perform yung service or hanggat hindi mo na-deliver yung goods. Normally, unearned revenue is service or may contractual period siya. Okay? O kaya yun nga, advances from customers yan, mga ganyan. Okay? So, yung non-current assets category naman, ito yung babayaran mo siya 12 months, parang 12 months after or more than 1 year after the balance sheet date. Normally, ang mga ganito, yung mga long-term loans, mortgage payable. Mortgage payable, ibig sabihin nangutang ka, tapos may collateral. Okay, so halimbawa, 5 years yung mortgage, yung utang mo, ganyan. Bonds payable naman, nag-issue ka ng bond. Meron kasi tayong tinatawag na bonds. Para din siyang note, pero different certificate. And bonds are most of the time non-current. Kasi ini-issue mo yan as a long-term, parang source of long-term debt mo. Okay? Source of funding, nangangalap ka ng capital in the form of debt. And you are planning na bayaran siya more than 12 months. Okay? So, those are your normal or typical accounts within your liabilities. So, the last element for your balance sheet or statement of financial position ay ang owner's equity. So, sa owner's equity, in a simple business, dyan mo makikita yung capital or ito yung investment ng owner. Meron din tayong tinatawag na withdrawals or drawings. Ito naman, ginagamit tong account na to kapag yung owner nag-withdraw siya dun sa capital na ininvest niya. So, halimbawa, kinailangan niya ng pera, emergency, or kailangan niyang mag-withdraw ng funds na ininvest niya dun sa company, ang tawag doon, drawings. Okay? Okay, now, dadako naman tayo sa income statement accounts or the statement of comprehensive income accounts. Sa revenues, may ang normal accounts dyan for simple business or service revenue. Service revenue, ibig sabihin, yan yung kita mo sa pagpo-provide ng services. So, for example, nag-provide ka ng accounting services o kaya naman mekaniko, yung ganyan. Or driver. Or what else? Yung normally waiter, mga ganyan. So, another form or another account typically used is also the sales revenue. Ito yung normal sa mga merchandising entity or merchandising business. Sari-sari store, halimbawa, yon sales revenue ang tawag doon. Yung mga malls, so meron silang sales revenues, yung benta, in short. Okay, so our last element are expenses. So, yung nakalista dito, ito lang yung parang typical sa isang small business. As the business grows or becomes more complicated, mas madaming different types of accounts. Okay, so we have cost of goods sold or cost of sales sa isang merchandising entity. Ito yung cost nung product na binibenta nila. So, halimbawa, for example, nagbabuy and sell ako, for example, ng cellphone. Binili ko siya for 5,000, tapos bebenta ko siya ng 6,000. So, yung 6,000, yun yung sales or sales revenue. Yung 5,000 na cost nung cellphone, pag nabenta ko na siya, yun yung tinatawag na cost of goods sold or cost of sales. Okay, another normal expense is salaries expense. Siyempre, kung may small business ka, may tauhan ka dyan. Kung merchandising, meron kang tindera, meron kang admin, may receptionist, yan. Mga ganon. So, yung sweldo ng mga tao, ng mga tauhan mo, you call that salaries expense. Okay? So, for a simple business na walang manufacturing involved, tawag mo lang doon salaries expense. Manager, mga salaries expense yun, sweldo nila. Utilities expense naman, ito yung normal account title for your bills. So, water bill, electricity bill, telephone bill. So, normally, yung ibang companies ginagamit na lang is utilities expense. Meron din naman, kasi depende yan sa company, no? Or sa accountant or chief accountant nung business. So, pwede nilang palitan. Pwede mo naman gamitin electricity expenses, water expenses. So, collectively, they are known as utilities expense. Meron ka ding rent expense. Ito common din to. Kasi most of the companies, wala naman silang pangbili ng building. So, uupa ka lang. Kung simple store ka lang, uupa ka, for example, ng pwesto sa palengke. So, you have your rent expense. Supplies expense naman, ito yung for sa mga stationery, yung mga bond paper na ginagamit mo. Or yung other supplies na kailangan mo for running the business. So, yun yung tawag doon. Okay? Depreciation expense, this is another most commonly used expense account. Dito mo nire-record yung depreciation. Depreciation, ibig sabihin, yung value nung equipment, nung life, nung equipment na nagamit mo. Yung value ng paggamit mo sa equipment. So, halimbawa, isang small business, meron kang printer. Okay? Ina-assume mo na yung printer na yon tatagal or magagamit mo ng 3 years. So, yung expense sa paggamit mo ng printer, i-depreciate mo kasi siya, hahatiin mo yung cost niya. For example, binili mo yun 3,000 pesos. So, pwede mo siyang i-spread into 3 years yung life, yung estimated mo na life na gagamitin mo yung printer. So, yun yung depreciation expense. Meron naman tayong tinatawag na uncollectible accounts expense. Ito yung benta mo or service revenue mo na hindi mo na makukollect. Tipong hindi nagbayad. So, dyan natin siya nilalagay at collectible accounts expense. Then, another common expense account is your interest expense. Ito yung pag nag-issue ka ng note, tapos may babayaran kang interest. So, yun yun. O kaya nangutang ka sa bangko, yung interest. So, we put that or nire-record natin yun sa interest expense. Okay, so those are your typical accounts. And we use that para sa ating double entry system of accounting. Okay, or bookkeeping. It means that for every business transaction, amounts must be recorded in a minimum of 2 accounts. The double entry system also requires for all transactions, the amounts entered as debits must equal to the amounts entered as credit. So, itong system na ito yung ginagamit natin para i-record yung mga accounting transactions. So, for example, ang kauna-unahan normally na accounting transaction sa isang business is yung owner or yung owners mag-i-invest ng cash or capital dun sa business. So, ang sinasabi lang ni double entry, dalawang account lagi ang affected ng isang accounting transaction. So, for that particular example, ang affected nun is cash and capital. So, laging meron yan, double entry, may debit, may credit. Ano yung debit na yun? Either assets, or liabilities and equity, or pwede ding expenses, revenues. So, yun siya. Laging yung tatandaan sa ating account, sa pagre-record natin sa accounting, lagi dapat may debit at may credit. Pwedeng isang debit, dalawang credit, dalawang debit, isang credit. Basta ang importante, in double entry system, dapat yung total ng debit or debits ay equal sa credit or credits. So, normally, yung entries na yon or accounting transactions, ang tawag kasi natin sa pagre-record na yon is an accounting entry. Tapos yung accounting entry na yon, nire-record mo kasi siya sa isang document na ang tinatawag ay general journal. Okay? Sa isang general journal, makikita nyo may debits and credits. Diba? Sa debits and credits, mayroon kasi siyang left side at right side. Kung magdodrawing ka ng letter T, sa taas or sa pagitan ng debit at saka credit mo, yan yung tinatawag nating T account. Okay? The simplest form of an account. Okay? Ilalagay mo sa taas yung account name or account title. Tapos, yung left side niya, debit. Yung right side niya, credit. Ano po ba ang ibig sabihin ng debit? Ano po ba ang ibig sabihin ng credit? Okay? So, maraming variations or kasi nagmula siya sa Latin word. So, for me, ang simplest explanation ko dyan, hanapin nyo na lang yung textbook definition, but for me, the simplest explanation na pwede mong tandaan is ang debit, left side yon. Ang credit, right side yon ng T account. Pag magre-record ka kasi, laging debit and credit, debit and credit. Huwag mong iisipin na, okay, asset dapat debit, liability. Yung asset, kasi nasa left siya ng equation, dapat siyang debit. Yung liabilities equity, lagi siyang credit. Hindi. May effect yon kung nasang side siya. Pero, debit, basta tatandaan mo, ang debit, yung left. Ang credit, yung right. Okay? Debit also, minsan sinasabi naman nila, debit is the value that you receive. And then credits are the value you partake. Okay? Ibig sabihin, debit yung kung ano yung natatanggap mo. And credit kung ano yung nabibigay mo. Yung nawawala sa'yo. Parang ganon. Pero for me, simplest talaga dyan, debit, left, credit, right. Debere, credere. Okay? You will learn, explain ko siya later kung bakit. Okay. So, lagi niyong tatandaan itong drawing na to. Okay? T account. Okay? Sa left, nandun ang assets, tsaka expenses. Sa right, nandun ang liabilities, equity, at revenue. Okay? Gagamitin nyo to mainly sa mga accounting entries nyo para mas madali nyo matandaan kung ide-debit ba siya or i-credit ba siya. Okay? At saka kung ano yung normal balance niya. Okay. So, assets and expenses. Assets muna tayo. Diba dun sa accounting equation natin, ang assets nasa left. Ang liabilities and equity nasa right. Okay? So, lagi mong tatandaan, kapag increases in assets, so nag-increase ang asset mo dahil sa isang accounting event, ide-debit mo yung asset. Okay? Kasi nasa left siya, so normal niya, debit ang balance niya. Ibig sabihin, pag nag-increase yung asset, debit yun. Okay? Kabaliktaran naman, pag nag-decrease ang asset, credit yon. Okay? So, clear tayo. So, yung left, assets, di ba? Nasa debit side normally yan. So, pag nag-increase ang asset, debit. Pag nag-decrease ang asset, credit. Okay? Accounting equation muna tayo. Next, since kanan naman tayo ng equation. So, kanan ng equation, ang kanan, credit side ng T-account. Ibig sabihin, ang liabilities and equity, ang normal balances niya ay credit side naman. Kasi di ba dapat equal lagi ang assets tsaka liabilities and equity. So, kung ang asset nasa left, ang normal balance, ang liabilities and equity, nasa right, ang normal balance. Which is, ang right side, credit. Ibig sabihin pala nito, pag nag-increase ang utang mo or nag-increase ang capital mo, i-credit mo ang liability account or capital account. Okay? Malinaw? Pag nag-increase ang liability at equity or capital, yan ay credit. So, pag binawasan mo, halimbawa, nagbayad ka ng utang mo, okay? Nagbayad ka ng utang, so nabawasan si liability. Yung account na yon, for example, accounts payable, binayaran mo. So, ibig sabihin, nagbayad ka ng utang, mababawasan ang liability. So, magde-debit ka ng liability kasi decreases naman sa liability at equity ay i-debit mo siya. Okay? Basta ang lagi nyo lang tatandaan, ano yung normal? Yun yung increase. Okay? Kung normal balance niya credit, so increase niya credit. Kabaliktaran, anong kabaliktaran? Debit. Or ng credit. So, debit siya. Diba? Ma'am, bakit po yung revenues and expenses? Wala naman po sila sa accounting equation. Kasi, ganito yan. Yung revenue minus expenses, ang tawag natin doon, net income. Okay? Yung net income, i-add mo siya sa value ng capital mo. I-add mo siya sa capital kasi yung net income, nadadagdag yun sa kita. Or yung tubo kasi siya, diba? Pwede mo yung idagdag sa value ng company. Nadadagdag siya sa capital. Tubo nga siya, diba? So, nadadagdag siya sa capital nung may-ari. Papalaguin niya yon. Or, pwede niyang i-withdraw in the form of dividends or profit distribution na tinatawag. So, ibig sabihin pala, kung ang net nun, revenue minus expense, kung ang net nun nakakadagdag sa capital, ang revenue pala, ang effect niya sa liabilities, wala, di ba? Ang effect ng revenue sa capital is addition. At dahil ang revenue ay nakakadagdag sa capital kasi pagtaas ng revenue po, pagtaas ng net income, 'di ba? So tataas yung capital pag mataas yung net income. So pareho pala ang treatment. So pag nag-increase ang revenue, magi-increase ang capital. Kaya kung ano yung normal para sa capital, 'yon ang normal sa revenue. Kaya kung ang normal ng capital, pag nag-increase ay credit, same rule applies sa revenue. Okay? Tapos yung expense naman, dahil expense, nakakabawas siya sa net income ng company. Kasi binabawasan mo ng gastos, di ba? Gastos ka ng gastos, mababawasan yung tubo. Dahil nababawasan niya ang capital, kakontra na naman yung capital. Okay? So yung normal sa capital, kabaliktaran ang normal ni expense. So, kung ang capital nag-i-increase, nire-record mo sa credit, pag ang expense pala nag-increase, okay, sa debit mo pala siya ilalagay. So, ang normal balance ng expense, parang sa assets. Debit. Pag nag-increase ang expense, debit. Pag nabawasan ang expense, credit. Okay, malinaw. So, yun yung, kaya mahalagang tatandaan nyo, ang assets at expenses, nasa left, which is ang debit, meaning left. Normal accounts, normal increases ng assets and expenses, debit. Increases ng liabilities, equity, revenue, credit. Pag may nakita ka na expense nasa credit side, hindi yun normal. There's something wrong. Pag may nakita kang assets na ang balance or ending balance ay credit, hindi na yun asset. Okay? Pwedeng contra-asset yun. Okay? Na tinatawag. So, basta laging tatandaan, asset, normally debit. And, laging tatandaan ang letter T. Yan. Yun lang naman. Okay, so itong slide na to is just the same as the previous slide, pero kumbaga nandito na yung increase and decrease. Assets, expense, pag nag-increase debit, pag nag-decrease credit. Liabilities, capital, equity, revenue kapag nag-decrease debit, kapag nag-increase credit. So, babalik ka dun sa T account at sa golden rule natin na assets equals liabilities plus equity. So, kaya yung T account mo na nasa left side ang assets and expenses, nasa right side ang liabilities, capital or equity, and revenue. So, that's it for tonight. Yun ang debits and credits. Okay, that's all for now. Till next session, so we'll be discussing more concepts soon about basic accounting. We'll be solving problems. We'll be showing examples ng mga accounting entries, accounting cycles. I will create a video for a sample merchandising entity. So, just don't forget to subscribe, to watch out for more videos, to be notified. Push that notification button to be notified of new videos, new accounting lessons or tutorial lesson o kaya naman problem solving video that I would upload. If you have any suggestions or if you have any topics that you would like me to discuss, please send it to me through your comments here. Or you can also add my Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram accounts, and you can send me a DM there. Okay, so this has been your Contador Publico, your friendly neighborhood CPA at your service. Don't forget to like and subscribe.